A missing Thunder Bay woman has now officially been found. A local daycare is preparing to reopen after an abrupt closure. And a Thunder Bay family is set to appear on a popular game show. Good evening and thank you for joining us. It was a missing persons case that took the Thunder Bay Police Service's investigation over provincial borders, but they've now officially confirmed that LaTanya Tate has been safely located.
The public was first made aware of the case on January 6th. The last reported sighting of Tate in Thunder Bay was on New Year's Day. Tate's family held an emotional press conference pleading with the public to help locate her. Tate was recently spotted in Winnipeg, but police couldn't declare her found, however, until she made contact. That's apparently now happened. Thunder Bay police were unable to provide more information on the case, but are thanking the public and the Winnipeg Police Service for their assistance.
The administrator of the Thunder Bay Police Services Board says he's excited to start working with new provincial appointee Karen Machado. Malcolm Mercer says Machado brings both the professional and personal experience that the board currently lacks. Vasilios Bellows reports.
The announcement came on Tuesday.
As any other board member, I'm going to learn, listen, bring my ideas forward, contribute as much as I can, and share my knowledge and experience.
Karen Machado will be filling one of two provincially appointed positions on the Thunder Bay Police Services Board. Board Administrator Malcolm Mercer says he's excited to start working with her.
I had the pleasure of meeting her yet, and I really look forward to that. I'm delighted that she's joined the board.
He adds that Machado brings an important voice to the table. She has extensive experience in corrections as the former superintendent of the Thunder Bay Jail and Correctional Center, and is also a member of the Red Rock Indian Band.
I think a very useful perspective, both because she's obviously has an Indigenous perspective that she can bring to the board, which I think is tremendously important, and she's had involvement in the legal system and the justice system, which allows her to see from another perspective other than policing. Real people are impacted by the legal system, and policing is one aspect of it. Obviously, the courts are another, but correctional services is a third. And I think that's given her an opportunity to bring insight to the table. So I think that's very cool.
Mercer and Machado will take part in their first board meeting together on February 21st. There's still one more provincial seat to fill after the resignations of former members Royden Pelletier and Michael Power last year. The board hopes to fill the remaining vacancy within 2 months. Vasilios Bellows, TBT News.
A total of 4 people have been arrested for drug trafficking after Thunder Bay police executed 2 separate search warrants on the 200 block of Amelia Street West this week. On Wednesday afternoon, a 24-year-old Toronto man was found in possession of cocaine, crystal meth, and fentanyl. He also had a large knife and bear spray. Then yesterday, police arrested 3 men, a 28-year-old from Toronto, a 19-year-old from Pickering, and a 30-year-old from Thunder Bay for trafficking cocaine. All of the accused from these incidents have been remanded into custody.
Charges have been withdrawn against 2 men arrested in the kidnapping and assault of a man in Nipigon in a case that's related to the disappearance of Alyssa Turnbull. Jason Lawson-Balladis and Harold Sue were originally charged by the OPP in September of 2020 following an incident that sent a male victim to hospital. The withdrawn charges include firearm-related offenses, kidnapping, aggravated assault, and assault with a weapon. In 2021, Andrew Otway, Turnbull's brother, pleaded guilty to several charges, including kidnapping and aggravated assault. He received a 6-year sentence. The OPP have made 2 arrests that are directly connected to Turnbull's disappearance. Brian Sues and Nicholas Sues have been charged with committing an indignity to human remains. Turnbull was last seen in April of 2020, and police still consider her a missing person.
A call to the OPP about an unsecure load likely prevented a big mess on Highway 1117 in Nipigon yesterday. Officers say the cargo seen here perched precariously on a commercial vehicle was about to fall off the trailer when officers pulled the vehicle over in response to a complaint from the public. Several defective tie-downs had been used to secure the load. Charges were laid and the vehicle was taken out of service. OPP remind drivers that if they see something on the road that looks unsafe, to report it.
There's good news for local families that were affected by the abrupt closure of a local daycare earlier this month. The owner of the Sleeping Giant Child Care Center has confirmed the facility will reopen its doors early in February. Dozens of families were left scrambling to make alternate arrangements for their children when they were notified back on Saturday, January 7th, that the center was temporarily closing that coming Monday. At the time, owner Andrea Mulligan explained that the closure was a result of a funding issue as the facility transitioned to a not-for-profit business model. Sleeping Giant opted in to the Canada-wide $10 a day system in an effort to lower fees. Mulligan, who wasn't available for an interview today, says funding from the DSAB has now been secured, and the center will be ready to welcome families back on Monday, February 6th.
Lovers of Family Feud Canada are in for a treat next Tuesday when the Yes No family from right here in Thunder Bay will compete on the popular game show. They considered it a long shot when they applied back in August, but to their surprise, they got the phone call they were hoping for and made their way down to the CBC studio in Toronto to compete.
It was a little hectic, it was a little stressful, but it was pretty neat. It was a very cool experience.
Being a contestant on Family Feud Canada is a little more pressure-packed than watching the show at home, says Jeff Bevilacqua, a member of the Yes No family, whose appearance is set to air next week. Family Feud is recorded in front of a live audience, and they had to perform under the lights with friends and family in attendance. Family member Riley Yes No, who is currently in Toronto, was the driving force urging them to apply. Her mother, Kim Bevilacqua, says the rest of the family was a little leery at first.
We were pretty incredulous. We thought this is not going to happen. We are not as outgoing as she is, but she managed to convince us, as she usually does, to get into her harebrained ideas, and it ended up being one of the most fun things I've ever done in my life.
Family Feud, of course, pits two families head-to-head, with contestants buzzing in to find the most popular answer. And the Yes No's insist that isn't always as easy as viewers might think.
If you've seen how the game gets played, they ask a question and kind of come down the row. And it's great when you have one or two ideas in your head, but when the two people beside you take those ideas and give them as answers, now you're sitting there kind of scrambling. Meanwhile, Jerry D's trying to talk to you with a little bit of banter back and forth. And like I said, he's a pretty funny guy.
Bright lights, and they're not really telling you what to do, but they're trying to get you to keep your energy up.
The excitement is high for the first airing of their show on Tuesday, January 31st, and each member agrees.
It was an adventure of a lifetime.
Well, a series of one-day language camps were held at Fort William Historical Park this week. It was a chance for youth and families to embrace the Anishinaabe-Moan culture through a variety of activities. Jessica Clement was there.
The Thunder Bay Indigenous Friendship Center invited students, families, and interested participants to Fort William Historical Park this week to take part in language camps. Attendees from various age groups were able to participate in a number of hands-on cultural and educational activities like moose hide tanning, crafting, snowshoeing, and language classes. The Indigenous Friendship Center's Genevieve Desmoulins says she wants to help traditional languages make a comeback.
I learn differently than just from reading a textbook or reading words. And I feel like when it comes to language, it's really important to have the language heard. And I thought, but how can I bring that into the community where I can get everyone together and have more people hearing the language and partaking in our culture as well?
Desmoulins hopes the program resonates with people and makes them want to learn more about Anishinaabe-Moan language and culture.
There's a lot of people who have lost the ability to speak it. Some of us weren't raised with that language at all. Like for myself, I didn't even know that my grandmother was a language speaker until I was an adult.
Many of the parents had similar experiences and want it to be different for their kids.
Growing up, the language wasn't a part of our home, so that's something I hope to instill in our home and with my young daughters.
You know, a lot of our language was lost throughout the generations, and so now them learning it and them taking the day off school and coming here and learning their culture is really important to me.
More information about the Indigenous Friendship Center's programs can be found on their website and social media pages. Jessica Clement, TBT News.
It's not often a 50-50 draw prize goes unclaimed, but that's exactly the situation the local Boys and Girls Club found itself in this summer. But rather than keep the $3,000 prize, the organization is paying it forward to 2 other organizations. The winning ticket was pulled during last year's Country on the Bay Festival, but the owner of the winning ticket never stepped forward. So now the Boys and Girls Club have decided to pass that money on to the Dewdrop Inn and to St. Ignatius High School for student post-secondary scholarships. CEO Albert Aiello says it's important that these groups support one another, knowing they all have a common goal.
When you're in the nonprofit sector, we always try to maximize our resources. And you can get a lot further by working together and partnering with different organizations. And we really, we've built a good foundation within the community.
We've been feeding the hungry for 42 years. Community support allows us to serve a good meal daily, so this money will help us to do that.
The Boys and Girls Club is planning to hold another 50-50 draw at this year's Country on the Bay Festival, which runs from July 21st to the 23rd at Fort William Historical Park.
Well, the Regional Health Sciences Foundation has found its winner for its monthly Thunder Bay 50-50 draw. Thunder Bay's Margaret Miller has claimed the first grand prize of 2023, taking home more than $654,000.
Do you know why I'm calling you?
I'm hoping it's something good.
Well,
have I won something?
you've won something. Do you want to know what you've won?
Yes, I'd like to know what I've won.
You've won $654,392 in the Thunder Bay 50-50.
I did?
You did.
Oh my God. Oh my Lord. You're kidding, right?
I'm not kidding, Margaret.
I'm amazed. I'm totally amazed.
Yeah, that's the proper reaction. Miller has been buying tickets for more than a year now in order to help out the regional hospital. She says she isn't sure yet what kind of fun she'll have with that money, but she'll figure it out. The Thunder Bay 50-50 draw has awarded more than $17.5 million in prizes since its inception early in the pandemic. Tickets are now on sale for next month's draw, which will take place on Friday, February 24th.
Here's a welcome development for area runners. Registration is now open for this year's Firefighters 10-mile road race, which will be back as a full in-person event this May-long weekend, for the first time since the onset of the pandemic. As Mike Lang tells us, officials couldn't be more excited for the 87th edition of the race.
For the first time since 2019, hundreds of runners will gather for the 10-mile road race this spring. The last 2 years, participants were forced to run by themselves or with members of their COVID bubble and submit their times to the organizers. Race coordinator Herb Danaher is having trouble containing his excitement after 3 difficult years.
COVID just was a totally different world. We were sort of boxed in, and it really wasn't, you can't creditably call it a race. I mean, people did it, but this is live. This is live. So here we are. This is the real deal. So now we're back. And this is where you want to be. You want to be on the May 22nd, 2023. You want to be at the start line at Simpson and Donald for the Firefighters 87th annual race.
It will follow the traditional route, heading north up Simpson toward Marina Park before returning back to the starting point. There are still a few holdups that have to be addressed. Registration for the relay race is on hold, pending the recruitment of a coordinator, assistants, and more volunteers. But Danaher is confident that those positions will get filled.
We're optimistic that usually we may put out the call in a little bit of a desperation that the community steps up. There's lots of people that have done this race in the past. So it's time to give back. So we're hoping that somebody is going to step up. Other than that, we're locked and loaded. We're going to hit the ground running, and we're looking forward to it. And the excitement in the community is contagious. So away we go.
Individual registration is now open on 10mileroadrace.org, and 150 people have already registered. Mike Lang, TBT News.
Great to have that event back in all its glory. And Fiona, I know that there's a running group that's training that will be out tomorrow morning, and I understand the temperatures will be nothing like that figure we see behind you.
Who might that be on that team that's
someone to my left? A little to my left here.
We'll see. We'll see. I'm not there yet.
Yeah, you definitely want to bundle up first thing in the morning because it's going to be cold tonight. Today, it was above seasonal. Let's say the overnight low -17, wind chills of -28. So yeah, it was cold last night, but we warmed up to -6, wind chills around -11. Winds started out fairly light, west-northwest, 14 kilometers per hour. As the snow has started to taper off, the winds have been kicking up this afternoon up to 49 kilometers an hour, and the temperature has started dropping again. So we're down to -8, which is still not bad. It's not bad for this evening at all, but it's on the way down. All you have to do is look to the west, where some very cold air has already moved in. -14 in Fort Frances. Temperatures have been dropping steadily all day. Right now, the wind chill feels like -26, and they've still got some snow. Similar temperatures up into Kenora and Dryden. Red Lake at -19 has a wind chill of -28 at this hour. They too saw their temperatures fall steadily since the early morning hours. -16 in Sioux Lookout and Armstrong. Greenstone still in the midst of this system moving through, so it's still got some heat, if you can call -11 heat, and a wind chill of -18, but it's still much milder than most areas. And as we head down south to the North Shore, Nipigon is currently at -9, -7 in Marathon, and -6 in Sault Ste. Marie. They've had light snow all day. Winds are very minimal. Wind chills currently feeling like about -8. So it's been pretty nice there. Now tonight, this is where it's going to get ugly, folks. A low of -23. Wind chills are going to hit -31 by the early morning hours. So those running teams, you might want to consider starting your run a little bit later in the day. That's with some windy conditions up to 48 kilometers per hour from the northwest. And believe it or not, as the weekend progresses, it will get steadily colder. I'll have more details on that later on in the news hour.
Thanks, I guess. All right, let's just move on. The World Health Organization, we were expecting to hear from them today on whether COVID-19 is still being classified as a public health emergency of international concern. But the body is still weighing that decision, and now we're not expected to hear that until Monday. We'll have all the details as your news hour continues.
The global collective response is once again under strain.